My name is Mohamed Asfar Besafubaran from RSR 2454B. What is the biomechanics? Biomechanics is a study of the mechanism by which the anatomical components to create a movement. First, the movement have been done by the muscle, which the muscle create the tension, and then the tension transmit to the tendons, which the tendons are connect to the bone, and the transmission of the tendons go through to the bones and pull off the bones to make the bones move through the space, which in the end create a movement. In the next slide is the slide of the skeletal muscle. So skeletal muscle is the system of the muscle that enables the skeleton to move. It's divided by the two types, which is the origin and the insertion. For the origin is a proximal attachment, which is the toward to the center of the body, and for the insertion is known as a distal attachment, which is away from the center of the body. As you can see in the slide, there are two photos. First photo is the cross section of the skeletal muscle, and the second photo is the photo of the human muscle. So the human muscle consists of 600 muscles.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Khairul Ifami Qasim. So now I'm going to continue explain about type of muscle involvement in movement. So we can classify muscles based on the way that they contribute to a given human movement, which is they have three types. First is agonist, second is antagonist, third is synergist. So next we move to the next slide. So first is agonist and antagonist. So agonist is the muscle most directly involved in causing a movement, which is we call the prime mover. And the antagonist is a muscle that can slow down or stop a movement. So the antagonist assists in joint stabilization and decreasing the velocity of a line towards the end of a fast movement. So the image that I have been provided in the slide show the example of the agonist and the antagonist. So as you can see, when the tricep contracts, the antagonist is our biceps and the agonist is our tricep, because the prime mover is the tricep muscle. So for the bicep contracts, the agonist is our bicep and the antagonist is our triceps, because when we do the bicep curls, the prime mover is our biceps muscle, so the agonist is the biceps. Next, we move to synergist. So synergist is the assist a movement indirectly, which is the oftentimes synergists are considered to be stabilizers, or synergy is a stabilizer. So without synergists, prime movers would be ineffective in causing a movement. So synergists are required to control body motion when the agonist is a two-joint muscle. So as you can see the image in the slide, the prime mover is the biceps brachii and the synergist is fixed sector deltoid when the contracting, and the other one, the synergist, is the pronator teres, which is in the contracting movement. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Shazwan Akmal bin Ahmad Shukri. I am from RSR 2454B. Okay, next we proceed to the types of joints. Okay, for the type of joint, there is junction of bones, there is joints. Okay, for the type of joint, there is divided by three. There is fibrous, cartilaginous, and synovial. Okay, for the fibrous, there is no movement, there is structure in the skull. Okay, Next, for the cartilaginous, there is a limited movement. There is a vertebralitis. Okay, then for the synovial, there is a lot of movement that use knee and also elbow. And for the sport and exercise, is also the synovial joint also. Okay, for the synovial joints, there is articulating bone and there is knee that covered with hyaline cartilage and joint enclosed in synovial fluids. Okay, for the synovial joints, there is divided by three. There is uniaxial, basial, and also multi-axial. Okay, for the uniaxial, there is one axis. For the basial, there is two axes, and for the multi-axial, there is all axes. Okay, for the uniaxial, there is hinge joints. There is for elbow and also knee. Okay, for the basial, there is two perpendicular axes. There is wrist and also the ankle. And for the multi-axial, there is ball and also the socket. There is shoulder and hip. Okay, next we proceed to the cartilaginous joints. Okay, for the cartilaginous joints, that are types of joint where the bones are entirely joined by cartilage, that either hyaline cartilage or fibrocartilage. These joints generally allow more movement than fibrous joint, but less movement than synovial joints. Okay, there are have 5 columns for the vertebra. That for the first one, that have 7 for cervical. Next one, there is have 12 for the thoracic. Next, have 5 lumbar. Next, there is have 5 sacral. And for the last one, there is have 3 until 5 centrogial. There is tailbone.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and a very good day to Madam Jamilah and to all my fellow classmates. I am Muhammad Adanur Roka bin Rosam and I am going to be continuing our presentation and I am going to be presenting about our topic levers. So what is lever? A lever is a rigid object that is used with an appropriate fulcrum or pivot point, or we can call it a central axis of rotation, to multiply the mechanical force effort that we are producing, or it can be applied to another object which is load. So the use of lever, the use of this system can actually make our workout easier. And if, for example, we are having a hard time doing bicep curl with the use of lever system, we can make the bicep curl feel a little bit easier or a lot easier. So a lever has the potential to produce or resist forces. The lever acts on forces via rotation around a fulcrum pivot point or the central area, and the lever can create force or resist forces acting on it. So for example, if the exercise is hard, we can make it easier, and if the exercise feel easy, we can make it harder. That's the use of lever system. So there are 7 types of lever system, which is the lever itself, the fulcrum, the moment arm, torque, force, which is muscular force, resistive force, which is the load, and also the last one is mechanical advantage. So now we are going to talk about the fulcrum. So what is the fulcrum? The fulcrum is the pivot point of the lever, and the pivot point creates the central axis of rotation for a lever. So in our body, all gross human movements are actually lever movements, and the bone itself is the rigid body of the lever systems. And our joint, for example, our elbow, our shoulder, our knee, is actually the fulcrum in our body. It makes the human movements easier. Without the fulcrum system, we are going to have a hard time moving around and doing normal tasks in our daily life. Now we are going to talk about the lever, and there are actually 3 types of lever system, which is first class lever, second class lever, and also third class lever. So for the first class lever are those where the muscular force and the resistive force act on opposite sides of the fulcrum. As we can see in the picture right here, one side is going to be used as the force and one side is going to be used as the load or the resistive weight. And the fulcrum, which is the central axis of rotation, is going to be in the middle. And this is an exercise example, which is the skull crusher. We can see that the arm is the resistive arm, and the pivot point or our elbow is going to be the muscular arm, and it's going to be the fulcrum for us to raise our hands up. Now we are going to move on to second class level. So for the second class level is the level where the muscle force and the resistive force, the load, are on the same side of the fulcrum. As we can see in the picture, the fulcrum is on the end side and the load and the effort is on the same side, which is next to the fulcrum. With second class levels, the muscular moment arm is longer than the resistive moment arm. An example of exercise for second class level is calf raise. As we can see, the fulcrum is at our ball of the foot, joints at the ball of the foot, bend as our heel is lifted upward by calf muscle. The effort is being used by our calf muscles, which contract and lift our body weight, and the load is our body weight itself. Now we are going to move on to the last type of level, which is the third class level. So now we are going to the third class level, which is the last class for the level system. And the third class level is a level for which the muscle moment arm and the resistive moment arm are on the same side of the fulcrum. As you can see in the picture, it's almost the same as second class level, but the effort and load side switches place, and the fulcrum stays on the same angle. With third class level, the resistive moment arm is longer than the muscular moment arm. The exercise example for third class level is bicep curl. As we can see, our elbow is our fulcrum, which is our elbow joint, flexes as our biceps contract, and our biceps is the effort, which contract and pull our forearm upwards, and the load is the dumbbell itself or any weights that you are using. Now we are going to move to the last topic of the lever system, which is torque. So what is torque? Torque is the degree to which a force tends to rotate on an object about a specified fulcrum. It is also the magnitude of a force times by the length of its moment arm. The easiest way to understand torque is the longer the muscular moment arm, the less force is required, and vice versa, the shorter the muscular moment arm, the more force is required. So I'm going to give an example. So a 10-pound force applied 2 feet from the axis produces the same amount of torque as the 2-pound force applied on 10 feet from the axis. That's how torque works. And from the picture right here, this is a bicycle pedal. So if the bicycle chain contain longer moment arm, then the athlete need less force to pedal the bicycle. And if the bicycle pedal have shorter moment arm, then more force is needed to move the bicycle. So that is all from my presentation. Now I am going to pass to my group mates, the next presenter. So Assalamualaikum and thank you.
Hi and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Nosyara binti Rosli. Next we go for the human strength and also the power of the biomechanical factor in human strength, which is for the first one we have the joint angle, which is amount of the torque depends on the force versus muscle length, leverage, type of the exercise, and the body joint in the question, and the muscle used at that joint, and also the speed of the contraction. And next we have the muscle contraction, which is velocity non-linear, but in general the force of the capability of muscle declines as the velocity of the contraction are increased. And for the last one we have the joint angular velocity, and there are 3 types of the muscle action, which is the first one we have the concentric muscle action, which is a muscle action in the which the muscle shorten because of the contractile force is greater than the resistive force, and the force is generated within the muscle and acting to shorten it greater than the internal force acting at its tendon to stretch it. And next one we have the eccentric muscle action, which is a muscle action in which the muscle lengthens because of the contractile force is less than the resistive force, and the force generate within the muscle and also the muscle acting to shorten it are less than the external force acting at it tends to stretch it. And for the last one, we have the isometric muscle action, which is a muscle action in which the muscle length does not change because the contractile force is equal to the resistive force, and this force generate within the muscle and also acting to the shorten it are equal to the external force acting and at its tendon to stretch it. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nadia binti Zamzuri. I'm from SR 245 this is for slide force. Force is the idea of force is used in physics to define an effect that causes a free body to accelerate. Force can also be defined by intuitive ideas such as a push or pull that can cause a bull object to accelerate or a flexible object to deform. And force is a mechanism for the movement. Force also can be defined as a mechanism for the push and pull with a percent of an object or weight during the movement occurs. Okay, for factors related to force, related concepts to accelerating force include: first is thrust, any force which increase the velocity of the object, and second is drag, which is any force which decrease the velocity of any object, and third one is torque, the tendency of a force to cause changes in rotational speed about an axis. Force which do not act uniformly on all parts of a body will also cause mechanical stress, a technical term for influence which cause deformation of matter. Thrust is a movement that we pull the cable rope, and drag is a velocity that decreased by the cable, and chaku is the movement change toward the deltoid muscle. Okay, thank you.